rough, they got it all. Rage quitting, head banging, it's a metal bro. Mental meltdown, giving in flames. Chris and Henrik bringing the thunderous rage. Video games and viral content. Better games, ripping through pixels, the ultimate game to get around. The ultimate. Rave all punk, I'm feeling the rage. Chris Collins and HenricK on the stage, talking gaming news. Industry that can't escape, we're reviewing video games. No need to debate, they bring the heat, spitting truth non-stop with fiery words. They're ready to drop, making waves in the world of video games. Collins and HenricK, they don't play no games. From console wars to DLC scales, they expose it all, making sure no one jams. The audience fired up, ready to explode. When rage quits on, you know it's a code. You know it's a code. When rage quits on, you know it's a code. Rage quits. Rage quits. I'm losing my mind. Chris and Henrik, they're talking gaming all the time. Rage quits. Rage quits. It's a love-hate affair, but I keep coming back and nothing else to compare. Rage quit. It's a love-hate affair.
What's raging, gamers? Welcome to Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. How you doing, HenricK the Wreck?
Chris, it is Wednesday, my dudes. We're here.
Come on, we got so much video games news to discuss and so much more, but we always like to start off the show with a bang and show you guys a lot of viral content that is circulating all across the World Wide Web. So let's get it. Popular streamer XQC went viral after buying a PS5, and you're wondering, okay, big deal, right? But you got to understand, he has this brand new $500,000 Ferrari SF90, which isn't exactly a next-gen storage capability, if you know what I mean. I mean, it turns out that fitting a chunky console into a supercar is harder than fitting a GPU into a scalper's shopping cart. So let's go ahead and check out the struggle.
Just enough room for one PS5 Pro. Look, it's carved out. Maybe? Oh, yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. Struggles of having a supercar. Bro. Nope. That is a hard pass.
Are you kidding me, dude?
Put it behind the seat.
That's just so troll. Like you have this great, amazing car, and then you can't put anything in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't think with your hard-earned money in the streaming game, you would invest in something that's a little bit more video game friendly, I suppose. Maybe, they got to get a special tier license just to be able to drive a supercar in the end. But let's go ahead and jump right on into the comments, because the first one we got here is, why can't you just hold it? Yeah, fair enough. But then again, it's a PS5 after all. It's a delicacy. And then get
You
an
want to make
Uber
sure
for the
that baby gets
PS5.
home safe.
Exactly. Like Syrup is suggesting, this is wonderful. Get an Uber for the PS5 and send it home. Yeah,
I mean, you can afford it, right? You got that car. You could.
That would be hilarious if you did that only. Just make sure she gets there home safely. And then the next one is, the struggle is real. Shame on Ferrari for not making them with adequate trunk space for shopping. Not all of us are trying to race the cars. And man, he really did put them on blast. He added them. Come on, Ferrari. Think about the gamers. But at this point, buggy game launches are as predictable as Skyrim re-release. And Avowed is the latest victim, but sometimes maybe it's best just to let the chaos be. So who needs patches when the glitches are this entertaining? So let's dive in and see what the hell is going on with Avowed.
You, finally awake.
Hey, you're finally awake. What a classic meme format. And it had to happen, right?
Dude, that would be so funny and legendary if this was actually a real thing. Sorry to break it to you, gamers. We just wanted to troll during this segment. But let's go ahead and read the comments, because it was very legendary after all. So jokes aside, the fluttering pages of Guillemot during the fall is a nice touch. And so loving the attention to detail. I think we can all feel like as though we've been finessed by this. Maybe once, maybe twice. Not 3 times. But well played. I should have seen it coming, but god damn it, you got me. And then you get a shout out from the team with Avowed. Peak edit. I would honestly love if they would just break that fourth wall. Just
Hey,
let it
you know
happen.
what? Modders, make it happen. I'm looking
Make it
at you.
happen. That would be legendary. But this was insane. Epic Games just went full final boss on a cheater, and they did not hold back. So the creators of Fortnite sued a player, made him pay up, donated the money to charity, permanently banned him, and then forced him to apologize in a video. So this is hilarious. And then, because that wasn't enough, blasted it on their main X account like the final fatality. So the unlucky gamer, well, his name is Repulse God, who apparently thought sharing an account to unfairly qualify for the FNCS was a 200 IQ move. Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't. So if you haven't seen the apology video, let's go ahead and take a look.
That is a level of pettiness that you love to see. And I would guarantee you that if more companies did this, there would be less cheaters.
Yeah, come on, Call of Duty, Activision, take notes. I mean, people are so sick and tired of this kind of stuff. And I know they're only really addressing this in the competitive format, but this would be kind of funny to start your own X account. Just continually keep blasting cheaters over and over and over again. So let's go ahead and read the comments, because people had a lot to say around this apology video. So the first one says, good boy. And by the way, these are coming directly from Repulse YouTube channel with 7.6 thousand people liking that comment. Next one goes, getting bent over by Epic is wild. Yeah, to take public humiliation, and then, he probably didn't realize that the comments would follow, even on his own YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's never gonna let this one down.
No, people will never let this down for him. And then getting put on a collar and leash by Fortnite is crazy. Yeah, it's pretty much been like a shot collar for Repulse, or also known as Repulse God in the video game space. Well, I'm sure he will never do that again. Or will he?
Yeah.
Will he share accounts? Who knows? I don't know him. But it's still very, very wild. But we want to thank you, the gamers, for always tuning in live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because without your support, this show would not be possible. And hold on to your controllers, gamers, because I need you to pull out your handy dandy. No, I'm not going to say notebook. It's going to be your mobile device. You need to go ahead and scan that QR code, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a live show. This goes directly to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, and see that QR code? Yeah, that goes to my YouTube channel. So give that one a scan as well. There's tons of awesome content across different genres waiting. So just go check it out and drop a comment.
That's right. Come on. Come on. We need the subscriber boost. We love you, fam. And trust me, we're always building massive content on 2 different accounts. So come on. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
But HenricK, is it time? Are you ready to rock and roll, my friend?
It's time to talk about a game. So let's get talking about that game, all right?
Hey, let's get it.
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Kingdom Come: Deliverance II. This is the direct sequel to the 2018 original game. Despite its flaws, the first game was praised for its rich storytelling and world, among other things. So did the sequel deliver on that again, or perhaps even do better? Let's find out by first going over the gameplay. The gameplay of Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 falls into the genre of action RPG. All moment-to-moment gameplay is delivered in first person, but the game does take moments to deliver the story from other perspectives, in moments where you talk to characters or have cutscenes play out. The combat is easy at first, but quickly you find that there's quite a bit to it. You have the choice of melee or ranged combat and stealth, and each style does feel pretty fun to engage in. Each style takes a realistic approach, requiring you, for example, to aim your melee strikes, parry, or slowly reload a crossbow. The combat ties into the skill system, which is handled in a standard RPG way. Level up skills by using said skills. Outside of the combat, you also have an opportunity to develop a reputation within the world and engage in crafting. Your reputation is determined by your actions inside and outside of the story, and affects how the NPCs will treat your character. Now, considering the first game was praised for the story, how is this one? The story follows right after the events of the first game, and don't worry, you don't have to have played the first game to understand what's going on. It takes place in 1403 Bohemia, and you are still following Henry from the first game, a blacksmith apprentice turned warrior. Henry is now serving as a knight for Sir Radzig Kobyla, and is tasked with leading the force against Sigismund of Luxembourg, who happens to be invading. While not everything is accurate to actual history, there are even cameos of real historical figures. But now the question still stands. Pause. Is this what happens when the developers actually care about the product that comes out? Because that's what it seems like, Chris. It seems like they didn't have the biggest of budgets, but they made it work. What do you think?
Yeah, it feels like these days making a big budget game costs as much as funding a small country. With analysts speculating that Grand Theft Auto 6, for example, might hit a casual $2 billion price tag because apparently Rockstar is animating each individual grain of sand in Vice City, I suppose. But then there's Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2, proving you don't need a budget like the Dallas Cowboys to make a killer game. Warhorse Studios just put it off for just 1 billion Czech crowns, which sounds massive until you realize that's only $41 million, aka about, let's say, GTA 6 probably spending that much just to render a single sweat drop on a character's forehead, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I have to ask though, Chris.
Yes.
This combat system in this game, it's not as easy as a game like Skyrim, for example. So what did you think of it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I feel like this isn't some fantasy epic filled with dragons and magic spells. This is the medieval Europe at its grittiest, where, you know, the noblemen's plot, peasants grumble, and every tavern serves as a questionable stew. So from the bustling streets of Kuttenberg to the dense bandit-infested forest, the world feels awesome, and so you're gonna be willing to sacrifice some of the combat because you're really embracing the landscape that's surrounding you.
Yeah, I personally went a little bit more of the stealthier approach to a lot of things. It actually was throwing me back to like how I would play a game like Deus Ex Human Revolution, because that is also a game that I would go through just only stealth. And doing that, it could be a bit of a challenge. And I didn't do only stealth for this game, because you still want to engage in that melee combat every now and then, at least. But the stealth is just, you have a lot of little intricacies to it that you don't really notice maybe from like looking at the videos. But even just the fact that you can throw a pebble and you distract whoever is looking at that pebble and hearing it, that right there opens up so many doors for you to just mess with the NPCs.
See, I'm shocked you're not mentioning
I love
the
when
fact,
that happens.
I'm shocked you're not mentioning the fact that, like, you gotta, you know, wash your stinky pits too in this video game.
Yeah,
Even
you gotta
the
do that.
stench alone will trigger an enemy to come your way. So, like, you know, like HenricK is saying, you know, the combat is not for the faint of heart or the impatient either. So if you're used to spamming dodge rolls and hoping for the best, well, you're in for a really rude awakening.
Yeah, and I even had a clip in the little video before our discussion where I got into combat. I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready for this, and I died. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, fighting in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a test of skill, timing, and actually knowing how to use the sword. And so I think that's why, you know, gamers are really, truly embracing this game. I mean, come on, you know, there's over 2 million copies sold in less than 2 weeks. People are starting to get sick and tired of, you know, the button mashing your way to victory. This game, you'll need to parry, chain attacks, and maintain your weapons unless you just enjoy wielding a glorified metal club. And trust me, it won't let you get very far in this game. But I do feel like them introducing, you know, the firearms was a massive addition to this game. I mean, they are so freaking powerful, but, you know, just make sure that they don't misfire, because you know, the realism is there, folks. It will blow up in your hands.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I have to also say, Kojima, is that you? Because some of these cutscenes were very long, especially in the first several hours of the game. I felt like I was watching a movie, which in some respect is not a bad thing. You know,
That's true.
It shows that there is a vested engagement that they want from the player to deliver the story in that method with longer cutscenes. And I'm not saying to the
it's a
extent
bit longer
of what
for a
Kojima's
role-playing
done.
game. It's like a role-playing game. It's a bit much, right? Yeah, I'm kind of there with you on that one.
You know, it does build out the characters in those cutscenes. It's not like they're just faffing about doing nothing, showing a little bit of their cinematography skills or anything like that.
Well, come on, you know, maybe the gamers don't know this about this game, but when they went to do motion capture, for example, they brought a freaking real horse into the studio. Okay, so like that's pretty badass, and they wanted to utilize every kind of motion capture capabilities that they can bring to this game. I think, you know, some of these artists and developers and publishers don't want to sometimes go down that traditional route of building a character model. Maybe they want to actually get some actors into the building, and I think that's what they brought with this game so beautifully. And, you know, your choices matter, and Henry's journey will shift depending on whether you play him as a noble warrior, a cunning rogue, like, you know, HenricK was suggesting, or a medieval menace to society, which I tend to like to do in a lot of my Skyrim and Fallout games. So, you know, you can charm your way out of trouble. You can be a master alchemy for a bit of, you know, medieval chemistry fun, or just settle disputes with your pure fist. So, like, every action has its consequences, and the world reacts accordingly.
Yeah, and did you actually enjoy the characters? Because I definitely did enjoy, I'd say, majority of the characters. They were pretty fleshed out enough where, you know, even the smaller characters, like, okay, I could see you have a life in this world, you know, like, even to the point of you can see their schedules where, say like you meet some barkeep or something, and
Right.
you see that they go through an entire schedule every day of like having breakfast with their family if they have any, and then going to work and then coming home and then sleeping and then waking up and doing that all over again. That is just an attention to detail that I can
Yeah.
appreciate because it makes the whole world feel like it's alive.
Yeah,
More
it's
so
a sense
than
of
any
escapism.
like design. Yeah, exactly. It's more so than any like design of character or anything like that can do, which I will say they also did a very good job with designing the towns to make them feel like they're lived in. So that
Mhm.
helps also. But it's just definitely a game that I can sit down and, say, okay, I'm going to be here for an hour. But that hour turns into 5 hours because I'm so immersed in the storylines and the
Yeah.
characters and just the whole atmosphere of the
Yeah,
game.
I'm with you. I mean, along the way, you'll reunite with, familiar faces like Hans, the noble archer who is somehow both your best friend and the most infuriating person you know. And then there's also Father Godwin, a priest who takes his duties seriously, both in the church and at the bottom of a beer mug. So, yeah, the historical accuracy, I'm believing it.
Yeah, any medieval problems can be solved with alcohol.
Yeah, and then there's Mark Bart, right? The man who's responsible for your parents' death, and walking reminder that medieval nobles were basically the final bosses with tax authority, unfortunately. So if
Mhm.
you're looking for a deep, immersive RPG where combat is brutal, choices matter, and history comes to life, plus a little bit of drinking and brawling and morally questionable decision making, well, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is ready to test your mettle. So just remember, revenge is best served cold and with a well-maintained sword.
Yep.
Uh,
So is this you saying that it's a repeat for you, Chris?
yeah, I'm actually going to go as far and say this is up there for Game of the Year. It definitely is. This is it's definitely leading that charge for me. It's a repeat. You're definitely going to want to get your hands on this game right now.
That's really on the nose, I think,
Mhm.
because I also believe this game has to be a contender for Game of the Year. I mean, granted, we're only a couple months in.
But isn't that
Other
such a
things
great
could come
feeling?
out.
Such a
But
great
it is a
feeling.
great feeling that you're playing a game. You're like, yes, this is the game for
I know
this
it's
year for
expensive. It's
sure.
$70, but I'm telling you, at the top of February, if you don't got something to play right now and you're so freaking bored and you want several hours to just waste in your life staring in front of a screen,
Oh, more than
this is the
several,
game
Chris.
for you.
More
I
than
mean, it's
several.
really,
You're
really
looking
long.
at like at least 100 hours of
Oh my god,
gameplay.
it's crazy. And I still feel like I haven't even found everything or finished everything. And you're even finding even funny jokes that have cultural significance, even amongst like just the culture of video game space. You'll find funny memes and etc. Even might find even Elden Ring lore. Even
Hmm.
within this video game. So what are you waiting for? Jump right on in. But HenricK, you're saying this is a repeat as well, Game of the Year.
Yes, it is a repeat for me and a recommendation to keep this in mind, even if you don't want to buy it right now. This is going to be a game that you'll want to buy eventually. It's going to be up there with my recommendations of other games like Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk
Yeah.
2077.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm there with you. It's a fantastic game. So what are you waiting for? But then again, we want to hear from you, the gamers. Are you vibing with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Is this a repeat for endless fun? Or are you just like, man, you know what? HenricK the Wreck and Chris Collins, you guys are finessing us. Well, we want to know from you. Give us your hot take. And HenricK the Wreck, are you ready to rock and roll? Because we got such a jam-packed show for everybody that's tuning in live for Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show.
Oh, yeah. So let's dive right into it.
Hey, let's get it. What's good, listeners? Welcome to Patch Notes, where my co-host HenricK the Wreck and I discuss gaming news, industry talk, and so much more. So let's get it. Bobby Kotick, the former Activision Blizzard CEO with the reputation that makes loot boxes look ethical, has decided he's not the worst CEO in gaming. And why would he just randomly mention this? Is this what former CEOs do once they leave the game of being a CEO? Well,
They're probably
instead,
a little bored.
yeah, they're probably a little bored, not being in the limelight after all. He wants to be rectified in the center of all things gaming. Well, instead, he's pointing the finger at former EA CEO John Riccitiello saying, quote, "We would have paid for Riccitiello to stay as EA CEO forever. We thought he was the worst CEO in video games," end quote, which coming from Kotick is like a shark calling another shark too aggressive. So Riccitiello did have some interesting ideas, like suggesting that Battlefield players might pay $1 every time they reloaded their guns. I mean, if anybody's played Battlefield, you're just spraying and just hoping that you hit. So
Yeah, you'd be spending thousands of dollars in a game like that.
Right, because nothing says immersive combat, like deciding if your next bullet is worth more than a McChicken. So, coming from Kotick, though, this feels like the boss of the final level calling the mid-game mini-boss too evil. And gamers had some thoughts about this, so let's dive right on into the comments. So the very first comment that we got here is, in November 2021, an article from the Wall Street Journal asserted that Bobby Kotick had been aware of the past allegations and had protected an employee who had sexually harassed a coworker from being fired. The article also asserted that Kotick had threatened to kill an assistant on their voicemail. I don't care how bad anyone at EA is. They can't be any worse than Bobby Kotick. And so a follow-up comment to this thread on Reddit says, "I looked up Riccitiello to see how bad he was. I was like, oh, he was C-level from 97 to 2004, which in my opinion is about the golden age of Electronic Arts. Then saw he left and came back as CEO in 2007 to 2013, and the start of the downfall for EA. Then he basically killed Unity. But, I mean, Bobby's rap sheet is so much worse. So, people are actually going for personal compared to the business side of things. So, I mean, take it for what you will.
I mean, that's exactly the comparison, though, because all the things that, especially in the last couple of years, came out about Blizzard were not really about them running their business as much as harassing people in the workspace and, having personal affairs with people. It's things like that. It's just nothing in comparison to what Riccitiello was doing, saying, yeah, I want them to pay money to reload. Like, that seems so elementary in comparison.
Well, what's so wild about this, HenricK, and for the gamers that don't really know the context about what was going on with Bobby Kotick, so the California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing, now the Civil Rights Department, sued Activision Blizzard in July 2021, alleging a retaliatory quote-unquote frat boy culture. So in December of 2023, they reached a $54 million settlement with Activision Blizzard over these claims, finding that, quote, no court or any independent investigation has substantiated any allegations that has been a systematic or widespread sexual harassment at Activision Blizzard, end quote. So, it's very crazy to see that there was very, a workplace misconduct that was happening behind the scenes to create some of our favorite video games. They are the backers of Call of Duty and Diablo in the end. But let's go ahead and jump right into another comment, which says Hitler versus Stalin. Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
Taking it to the extreme. Okay. And then we get another one that says, on the one hand, pot calling the kettle black. On the other hand, Riccitiello is the guy that effed up Unity big time with this whole, hey, developers, you're going to have to pay us for every single time your game made in our engine gets installed. Okay, that got me all confused. What he's saying is, it's like, if you make our game and you use our engine, and every time someone installs it, we're going to take money from it. And so this guy's like, no, we're not doing this. Pirated games will also count. So still F Bobby, even while all saying that about John. And then there's a follow-up comment that says here, I don't think that's worse than Activision. What happened with Activision is pure evil. EA and Riccitiello are just a case of typical greed that is encouraged by the system we call capitalism. And then, you get comments like this where Bobby Kotick, as trash of a person that he is, at least he made his company a lot of money. Riccitello was so incompetent, he ended up losing money during his tenure in whatever company that he was leading. He's the dude responsible for Unity's runtime fees, for example. So everybody's like clowning him for being the head honcho at Unity and not so much putting the blame on Electronic Arts because there was a tenure, I guess that was cool, HenricK. And then there's other times that it wasn't, I suppose. But, the shareholders love Kotick, but everyone hates EA and now Unity guy. He failed upwards.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same guy who called the developers effing idiots if they didn't monetize their game. Okay, well, not everyone
he
wants
was saying
to do that.
microtransactions, but
Yeah.
then again, he is the guy. Well, people would argue that the Korean game Maple Story was the first people to introduce loot boxes, but FIFA 09 really on a global stance implemented loot boxes, which a lot of us argue is the main reason why video games have been sucking recently, because everybody's been investing in loot boxes and live service games. But then developers and studios are probably be praising him, going, look at what you introduced for us, a new way to get money. But let's go into the next comment. Under Riccitello, we got Mirror's Edge, Brutal Legend, NFS Shift, Dragon Age Origins, Army of Two, love that game. Dante's Inferno, also love that game. Bulletstorm, also love that game. Dead Space, also love that game. Alice Madness Returns, Kingdoms of Amalur, and SSX, which, where's our remake? Haven't seen it yet. And then financially, he might not have been so good, I guess, but we got a ton of good games from EA during this time. When you compare that EA's current output, there's almost nothing left besides sports and Battlefield, which sadly it does, in a sense, feel like that. The same recycled crap over and over and over again, and where is that creativity to bring us something new? And then the last comment that we got here is, sometimes it takes one to know one. They might both be terrible. So, HenricK, between John Riccitello, the guy who thought charging players per reload was a genius idea, and Bobby Kotick, who somehow made being universally disliked his brand, who truly holds the title for the worst CEO in gaming?
Well, just based on the fact that Kotick was involved with the stuff happening without involving the business, just personal relationships with people and how things were being run in the office. That just right there is a red flag. Okay, that was happening under your leadership. So clearly, even if you say, yeah, I don't support that, yeah, I don't condone that, yeah, I don't partake in that, clearly you've let this become part of the culture of the company. And that's just not a good look. Compare that to what John Riccitello was doing, and it's not the same. They're on different levels. And Bobby is the worst.
Yeah, Bobby Kotick is like the CEO equivalent of a villain from a children's film, but he does know how to cash in, I would say. But then there's John, who somehow managed to lose money everywhere he went. I don't know what he was doing, playing Monopoly with blindfolds on, but, because he was that genius, like a lot of these comments were suggesting, about that infamous pre-install runtime fee on games created with the Unity engine. So every time someone installed your game, this is from the developer's end, Unity would charge them. So it's like as if the game itself came with the bill every time someone decided to hit the quote-unquote download button, which we do all the time on our phones to try to clear up space. So Unity, under John's leadership, wisely canceled the fee last year in September after developers threw a collective tantrum. But who would have predicted that taxing every single install might not be the best move, HenricK? Crazy.
I mean, yeah, from a I want to appease the shareholders kind of perspective, it's like, oh man, this is going to make them so happy if it can go through. But at the end of the day, it's just very anti-consumer and at the expense of all the developers who are actually making the products using your engine. So you're just not going to win anyone over on the community side. You're going to win the shareholders over, but you're not going to have any customers.
Yeah. But he, as much as like I can't believe I'm even defending John. But like it's like again, to his credit, he did introduce the loot boxes with FIFA 09, and despite all the protests, gamers still kept paying for those packs, whether they hate them or not. So it turns out that random rewards are just too tempting, and EA knew exactly how to cash in on it. So it's like that saying goes, a broken clock is right twice a day, but a slow clock is worthless. But we want to know from you, the gamers, who is the worst gaming CEO of all times? Is it one of these two knuckleheads? Is it someone that we
Or is it,
haven't
some
said?
other company? Because there's plenty out there, I'm sure.
Is it Tim Sweeney? Is it Jim Ryan? I'm just throwing it out there. Let us know what's good.
Well, talking about Avowed, well, it's got gamers, specifically PC gamers, in a crisis.
Oh, here we go
Why
again.
is that? Well, the age-old debate about low frame rates, yet somehow smooth gameplay. Witchcraft. And it's got me wondering, do we as PC gamers stress too much over performance? Or more accurately, are we obsessed with the sacred numbers? For years, PC gamers have sworn by the holy doctrine of 120 FPS or bust. Anything less, and suddenly their monitor is from the Stone Age, and their reflexes have aged 30 years. And I can attest to this for sure, because my main gaming monitor is a 240 hertz monitor.
There we go. I love it.
I want to
be able to use the equipment that
I'm
I
using
paid
that
for.
monitor to its fullest extent.
Exactly. I want to use what I paid for, damn it.
If you're hearing this from me, know that I mean it, basically. But here's the thing. Most games just need a few settings tweaks to feel great. And Avowed is a textbook case of play first, adjust later. Of course, that hasn't stopped gamers from throwing their opinions into the ring, so let's go ahead and see what they have to say.
Man, you weren't lying. Let's jump right on into the comments, because the first one that we got here is, I think the F-Not Man better make an optimized game, maybe. Yeah, what is up with that? When you get a game at launch and, it's kind of becomes a little buggy in a sense, especially in the PC route where, you're starting to, see frame rates drop. You're just going like, why?
Yeah.
Especially with such a legendary studio like this.
Me and a bunch of other people, my friends included, like close friends, are actually really, really worried about Monster Hunter Wilds, because that beta does not run well on PC. It runs great on console, but on PC, good luck if you have an older card. And when I say older, I mean like 2 years older. So not even that old, really. And it really is just because a lot of studios don't optimize things for PC anymore.
Yeah, it feels like even like this comment is saying, are you joking? PC gamers? Seriously? The entire point is to play games with options and frame rates that consoles cannot provide. We didn't pay for top-tier hardware to let game studios waste the headroom we have with lazy decisions. And we've sort of had this conversation before during season 8 of Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show, but it does feel like, in a sense, a lot of developers and studios are creating their games for the consoles and putting less focus on the PC gamers. And will that change anytime soon? Doesn't feel like it. But then there's another side of the argument, HenricK, that's been sort of fluttering across the World Wide Web, is that gamers are starting to, point the blame at Unreal Engine 5 and saying maybe it's not as perfect of a engine that everybody hyped it up to be.
Well, that is part of the problem in some respect, because, there's been plenty of analysis done on the engine from people, even like when the games that had Unreal Engine 5 first came out, because if you don't go in as the developer and optimize, you're still going to have problems, actually even more problems in some cases, where things like stutters will happen when you're playing the game. And that's something that was brought up especially during the time period when Silent Hill 2's remake came out, because you'd just be running around the town and there's fog, so you can't even really see anything, but somehow you're still getting stutters. How does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
annoying.
it's a very technical thing, but basically the engine has to load the shaders to make everything not look nice, and it's doing that in real time. And at the moments when it's trying to do it, it's causing stuttering issues. But you know
Yeah.
what can fix that? If the developers account for it and actually optimize the game around the way the engine works.
Yeah, and I'm there with you too. And you know what's also a big frustration playing this game was broken quest lines, which
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the only one. You know, you're doing these side quests that lead to nothing, and then what breaks a player's trust when you're trying to complete a quest, and then you're like, do I really have to start this whole freaking thing all over again? And then you don't even know where you're gonna drop back to because there's no real checkpoint in this game. Oh, it's so
Yeah,
freaking
then you start
frustrating.
questioning like, is that a bug? Is that a bug? Is that intentional
Oh,
or is that not?
oh, it's so freaking annoying. And then you get, I love this comment here. It says, now hold on there, young whippersnappers. Ignoring the frame rate is like trying to play a round of mini golf with a croquet mallet. Sure, you could do it, but why would you want to? A smooth frame rate is key for immersing yourself in those epic adventures and quests. Let's not settle for anything less than buttery experience, eh? Quality gaming is worth the wait, my friend. So yeah, I would rather wait. I'd rather hear a 3-month delay to try to get something right compared to just releasing it on Impact just because you gotta meet a shareholder's quota. Hey, I gotta get that money returned now. Like, that's always shitty.
Yeah.
And so stop justifying and outright defending mediocrity and lack of talent. Ooh, that's quite the take.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's, the game's still very much beautiful. It's just these bugginess that can kill the overall experience in the end. But then you get, F right off. Shit for brains. Optimization is important. Your mom's low frame rates during childbirth. Cut your oxygen supply. Look where you ended up. Very creative.
This
with
person
anguish.
is very angry.
And then alternatively, they could have just optimized their game before launch. Developers forget that they only get a good first impression once, and it takes magnitudes of expenses and resources to salvage a damaged reputation from a horrendous launch, and people still have stigma when you do. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy, HenricK. PC gamers are roasting Avowed over performance issues at launch, but we also heard from the games director saying, quote, you gotta accept a little jank to do something fun and creative, I think, end quote. So are PC gamers being too harsh, or should we start treating fun and creative as official patch notes for barely holding 30 frames per second?
Okay, well, from a PC gamer's perspective, maybe it's not a huge problem right now, okay? But if this continues to be a thing that is just an upward trend of more and more games come out with a bunch of PC-specific issues, give it 5 years, and this is maybe not even, and this is going to blow up in the developers' faces, because what's going to end up happening is I could definitely see it being that they then rely more on the graphics card manufacturers like NVIDIA and AMD, and also Intel, but more so probably NVIDIA and AMD, because they're on the higher end and have, especially NVIDIA has features like DLSS, where the game will render at a smaller resolution and then upscale it using AI, or it'll be able to insert fake frames into your game to make it feel like it's smoother, even though it's actually not rendering it smoothly. Things like that, if that becomes a crutch for optimization, give it 5 years. And this is going to be a huge problem, and people are then going to be really, really upset. Not even just the people who are, having the argument right now online. I'm talking all PC gamers are going to be upset if the majority of games come out with issues like this, because it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah,
what happened to being able to play a game and it just works at launch?
Yeah. Yeah, right? It feels like forever.
It's a novel idea nowadays, it feels like.
To me, honestly, HenricK, it's absolutely unacceptable for any developer or publisher, especially the games director, to say a game might not be finished at launch. Like, what? Like, what are we talking about? Are we supposed to just shrug and go, oh, that's cool, I was just planning on spending $70 to play a game that might still be in its beta phase? I mean, what is this, a peekaboo? Hey, here's a sneak peek. I mean, did I sign up for an exclusive early access demo, or did I buy the game? I mean, Henry, the audacity of saying, well, it's almost ready, but we're still fixing a few things, I think. No. We're not here for your vision of a game that's almost there. You're the game director, not a motivational speaker.
Especially when you're paying like $70 for these games. Like, I expect it to work.
Man, even if it's
Out of the
$40,
box.
I don't expect it to just be boofy like this. Like that's completely unacceptable. I mean, like, come on. I don't want to hear about your creative journey where you couldn't quite finish that texture, or the final boss isn't quite ready, but we could just patch that later, right? Like, no, my dude. Like, I want to press play and get a full finished game, like it says on the box. Okay, so if you can't finish the game in time, that's fine. Can we start normalizing that? Publishers, developers, studios out there, take your time, because you got to realize, like, there's only one curtain. It only opens once. You know, you're on the grand stage of things. Like, this will completely tank you. This is 2025, not 1995, okay?
Yeah.
Like, take off the training wheels.
And look what has happened in the previous instances where a game has come out to huge hype, and then all of a sudden it's just all died down because the game wasn't ready. Best example,
Starfield.
Cyberpunk 2077. Starfield's another great example of that. Halo Infinite's another great example.
Yes.
The fact that you can pull all these examples is not a good thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, in some magical cases like Cyberpunk 2077, the game can pull up from, you know, it being all the way at the bottom to now being overwhelmingly positive on Steam.
But it was so unacceptable at the time. You know,
and it is unacceptable when it comes out in such a broken state.
Yeah. I mean,
celebrated
later, but should never be forgotten. We should still hold CD Projekt Red to that same accountability. But hey, you, the gamers out there, we want to know from you. Do you feel like this is okay in your sense of video games? Do you like a little bugginess? I know some people are probably like N64 gamers that are like, doesn't that make the speed runs even more fantastic, having a little bit of bugginess? Or are you just like, this is totally unacceptable and we got to get with the times? Let us know what's good. So let's go ahead and talk about a lawsuit.
Speaking of Nintendo and the N64, but, you know, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, let's get it, because back in September 2024, Nintendo decided they weren't just going to catch them all. They were going to sue them all, too, taking Pocket Pair to court over Power World's suspiciously familiar mechanics. So fast forward to February 8th, and Nintendo hit the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, also known as the USPTO, with a whopping 23 patent claims. So the USPTO took one look at the stack of paperwork and basically said, yeah, no. So out of the 23 claims, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office rejected 22 of the 23 of those claims, essentially saying, nice try, Diddy, but if you didn't invent catching monsters, buddy. Okay, so the only patent Nintendo might get is conditional. So as long as they drop the 22 others, since it was piggybacking on the one that got rejected. And of course, gamers had plenty to say about the news with the following. So let's dive right on into the comments about the follow-up to the Nintendo Power World lawsuit update. Which one have they not rejected? And so I know everybody's wondering. So this thread says the patent that wasn't rejected is related to the smooth switching of writing objects in a game. It's only claim the USPTO is willing to grant, but only if Nintendo drops the other 22 rejected claims. So smooth switching of writing objects is the reason my last relationship ended. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that's healthy growing.
Yeah,
you're
man and a woman. The problems of your past.
Yes, you need to accept rejection. in the end. But like, when I see smooth switching of riding objects, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about Pocket Pair and they're probably only focused on just Pokemon. But doesn't this kind of sound like something that they're trying to like capitalize on the game mechanics with Mario Kart, for example? You're driving in your cart, you're going from land to air to sea, but like, how lame is that if like they were to win that over in the court
No,
of
yeah,
law?
because that is a pretty vague patent when it comes down to it. I think that a lot of other games have very similar mechanics. A lot of racing games, even not even just racing games, though.
Right.
Like my immediate thought is, what about a game like World of Warcraft, where you can sometimes instantly go up onto a mount and you'll be riding on a dragon or a hippogriff or something, and it's just like, is that gonna apply to that too?
Smooth switching of riding
I don't
objects. You're
know.
like, really? Come on, that is so freaking stupid. And then this comment goes, WTF does that mean? No one can make smooth mount/dismount mechanics. And then a follow-up says, it seems like a lot of people are misunderstanding this. The smooth switching of riding objects is hot swapping instantly between mounts that perform different functions as introduced in Legends. I'm going to butcher it. I can never say that name. But riding and flying to climbing, etc., without cooldowns or dismounting. Other games can have mounts and switching between mounts with different functions as long as it is an instant. Yes, this is incredibly dumb patent, but Nintendo gotta Nintendo them all. Yeah, pretty much. I hear them on that one. And then let's go into this next comment. I've been saying this since the beginning. Nintendo's patents are either so specific that they don't apply to Power World or so overly broad that it's trivial to prove that Nintendo didn't invent the relevant technology/design. So, a follow-up comment states, Pokemon isn't even the first game to feature capturing monsters. The first games that had this were released in 1984 So 10 years before Pokemon was a thing. People say, Monster Hunter and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like a lot of this kind of stuff is really nothing new. But then you get comments that say the patent gameplay is such nonsense. And I know HenricK the Wreck and I have been very vocal about gameplay mechanics. How can that make any sense?
Yeah, because you're just stifling the creations of other people at that point. You're saying, no, it doesn't matter if you came up with that on your own without even looking at us and what we've done. We're just saying we own that and you can never use it in your game.
Yeah, I don't think that's smart. Could you imagine you're in the arms race for AI and they start, going towards the direction of some of these patent attorneys? You're like, what are we doing? But then add a millisecond delay and call it almost smooth switching of riding objects and then patent that so the next guy has to make it so it makes 2 milliseconds and so on down the line, because this is stupid. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And then let's go into the last comment that says they will keep fighting because it's Nintendo. If they could patent video games as a medium, they would. So yeah, HenricK, if I were a patent attorney, I understand, I'd claim the universe, argue for Manhattan, and settle for Fifth Avenue. But Nintendo, they shot for 23 patents and got 22 rejected and now have to drop them just to keep the last one. So the real question is, did Nintendo just try to patent oxygen, or was this a 4D chess move that somehow backfired?
Well, the Nintendo lawyers are always busy. They're always trying to make sure that Nintendo sees that they're doing their job. And this is another classic case of that, where they're saying, you know what, we're going to try and shoot for the moon with a shotgun blast and see if we can hit anything. And they only hit one, but one is all it's going to take for it to be, okay, Nintendo, why did you do that? And actually, I think if a lot of people, like more people knew that Nintendo was even doing this, they probably wouldn't want to go out and buy a Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes out.
Yeah.
Not to say that I won't, because it's a very enticing offer, but it is the sort of thing that when a company does something like this, it's just entirely anti-competition in the space. Why would I want to invest in that company and give them money to keep doing that?
I don't don't know if gamers will feel that way, to be honest with you, HenricK. Maybe that's how you view things. I feel like gamers won't really care less. Gamers are going to play the games that they want to play. If it looks fun, it looks fun. But I feel like this is more of like, hey, if Nintendo won the Western world and they start backing Nintendo's efforts to try to patent this, and then that would put more pressure in Japan to really go forward with putting more pressure on Pocket Pair, which is, the creators of Power World, to really just disbanding the game altogether and say, forget you guys, no more Pokemon with guns. You are tarnishing our brand. Get the hell out of Dodge. Because a new patent has been published in the U.S. that sounds, suspiciously familiar to a lot of those patents that are in Japan. And that's kind of the understanding that I'm getting from a lot of this. And so people got to, understand too, if you're not familiar with some of those patents that were even thrown out there, even in Japan, was that, they wanted to kind of take the scenic route. They wanted, different ways for players to throw an item. One mode lets you toss a catching item to snag a character on the field, while another lets you launch a fighting character into battle, because apparently saying throwing a Pokeball was just too straightforward. They want to control all of it. So I guess my my question to end this conversation and to really throw to you, the gamers, is how do you patent abstract ideas? Isn't that game mechanics after all? Join in on this lively conversation. We want to hear from you, the gamers.
And Reddit, where gamers gather to debate the truly important questions like, quote, are doors just loot boxes or for rooms, or would Kratos survive in Animal Crossing? And yeah, he definitely would.
That's a real question. Would he now? I don't think.
I think he could. Because if you look at Isabella,
I don't think he can handle that landlord.
She's definitely got the power of gods. I see it in the eyes.
Yeah, right. Better play nice.
But this time, they're tackling another deep topic. And this week's is games, levels, or storylines that make you go, whoa, these people who made this were geniuses. Well, naturally, gamers had plenty to say, so let's dive into their takes.
Yeah, let's go right on into it. So the first one that we got here is the mansion level in Dishonored 2. The Clockwork Mansion or the Abandoned Mansion, because those two levels are peak.
That is a good one,
in my opinion. Yeah, you definitely don't want to sleep on this game. Hey, if you got, the streaming services, what are you waiting for? Make it happen. And then the next one is the time traveling level in Titanfall 2. That shit was so freaking awesome. It's been copied numerous times now. And honestly, half of Titanfall 2, laughing out loud. It's been a while since I last played, so I don't necessarily remember every part, but I do remember being blown away by that house factory level and the very end of the game. Yeah, a lot of people are like, where's my third one? This is like the next Half-Life series.
Oh yeah, this is literally the mission of Titanfall 2. Like, those two missions are very much the most memorable points. And actually, you should go play Titanfall 2 if you haven't, just to experience those two missions, because they're really great.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of gamers still skipped out on this experience, and HenricK's absolutely right. This one was a really cool one. This was the Control Ashtray maze. Oh gosh, something's cutting off on my end. Oh, my screen's going all crazy right now.
The Control Ashtray maze, it was very, very cool.
Yeah, so like this comment says, the coolest level in shooter I've ever played. It's so cinematic. For a game that outwardly seems to focus on story, mystery, world building, and so on, Control mechanically absolutely slaps. I don't know what the
and you got a banger soundtrack playing in the background when you go through this the first time. Oh man.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, you're starting out as a normal dudette and then gradually becoming this awakened time to F shit up. Telekinetic. It felt so amazing. Few abilities, but polished perfectly. Fluent, fast, powerful, chaining perfectly into each other. Just amazing. Yeah, that is, I can't wait for the series to come out that's currently in the works. And then the next one that we got is Stanley Parable. I never felt so mind-read by a game. It's always one step ahead of you. The humor is so absurd. The narrator does such a good job. 10 out of 10. Also, yes, totally agree on Outer Wilds. This was unmatched experience. That was from, the guy that was starting the thread of the conversation. But then there's a follow-up that says, absolutely the Stanley Parable effing game. I was so mad at times, yet so impressed. Yeah, I was a bit shocked that, they added this to this list, but, I know PS Plus gamers out there that are subscribed. It was available to get for free. Maybe you missed out on that opportunity, but what are you waiting for? I'm with you on that one, gamer. And then this one says there was a level in one of the Jedi Knight games, I believe was the first, where you have to escape a ship that's crashing. You're running on the ceiling and the walls as everything spins. I still think it's cool decades later. And then there was a follow-up to that comment that says, I think that Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. You defeat Gallic Fryer, voiced by none other than Steve Bloom, blow up his shield generators. Rogue Squadron is finishing the job on his ship as you escape. Amazing mission. Definitely one of the most unique levels I played as a kid. Yeah, sometimes you just want to embrace the lightsaber and just go bananas. So I am there with you. And then the last game that we got here is Prey. Prey always seems to be making the list.
It's a great game. If you've not played it, you should play it.
But I mean, I'm kind of with this comment. There's so many aha moments, both, just playing the gameplay and exploration. It's truly a masterpiece. The original Prey is cool too. And about half the time I solved the puzzle to enter a room, and on entry notice another 3 ways I could have done it. Prey alone is a mastery level design, let alone Moon Crash. So yeah, there's a lot of great games out there. Some of them I was quite surprised, by this Reddit thread, to be honest with you, HenricK. But what's a game, level, or storyline that's so brilliant that it made you kind of stop and stare at your screen and wonder if the developers had a secret deal with the gods of game design?
All right. Well, I'm a big fan of Halo 2 and how just cinematic and making you feel like you're in an action movie that game does.
Yeah, that soundtrack.
Especially the opening of that game, because here you have a couple cutscenes. You have the first level, and then at the very end of the first level, what does Master Chief do and what do they do to introduce the character to people who haven't had any experience with this character yet? They have him take the bomb that was supposed to destroy the space station he's on and throw it out the airlock with himself attached to it and give it back to the enemy spaceship, the Covenant spaceship, and activate it there with the last 3 seconds left that it had on it, and then just fly back to his ship, all in space, by the way, so he has no way of controlling himself, because he's just a brick. And they even say, for a brick, he flew pretty good.
Yeah, unless you're in that George Clooney, Sandra Bullock film,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
Oh God, I won't go there.
Every time I play Halo 2 from the beginning, it's just yes, this is exactly the experience I want out of a game like this.
Yeah, that was actually that's a good take. That's very thoughtful, because I was actually kind of struggling with this thread question, because there's so many games that kind of kept the mind. So to me, I'm going to kind of try to keep it a little bit more recent in the last 6 months of gaming. For me, High on Life kicks off with the hilarious fake tutorial in Buck Thunder 2 Xenoslaughter. So my dumbass hits the PS button to check if I downloaded the wrong game, because I was like, what the hell? I thought I was playing High on Life, or was I just too stoned? Either way, the fourth wall breaking comedy hits hard before yanking you back to reality. And then, after picking your character's look, you explore your house, you read your note from your mom, say, hey, I wish you came out of your room. Dad's really upset with you. Go find a job and stop playing video games. And then you step outside just in time to find, these aliens that vaporize your neighbor. And then you're like, yes, here we go. And then while you're in the chaos, you find that talking gun named Kenny, and you're immediately forced to flee Earth, blasting through those G3 grunts before jacking a warp drive from an alien ship. So I loved it. I mean, you get to it was such a great introduction to a video game, and the humor was so spot on. And maybe that had to do with, really, knowing those voice artists alone. Rick and Morty, the guys are fantastic. And so, if you're into that kind of style of humor, you're going to be like, yes, this is my game. Because every once in a while, HenricK, don't you just kind of want like a Ratchet and Clank kind of style of game? Like, this game is so stupid simple. I loved it. So I just kind of felt myself just standing there in Blim City, like just taking it all in. So I love that level design.
Yeah, that intro to that game is really fun.
Exactly. And so we want to know from you, the gamers, what was a game that like totally blew you away? Whether it was the storyline, the plot, was it a certain character that always stuck with you forever? Was it a level design that you're just like, whoa, that was so freaking cool? Let us know what's good. But we want to thank everyone for tuning in to Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. And without your guys' supports and girls, this show would not be possible. But hold on to your controllers, because we want to do our QR codes. We want to make sure that you guys hit the notification bell, like, share, subscribe. This is my YouTube channel. What are you waiting for? Would love to see you all over the comment sections.
Yeah, and you see that one changing over there. That one's mine. So don't forget to give that one a scan as well, because it goes to my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
where there's tons of awesome content. Yeah, all different genres waiting for you. So just, what are you waiting for? Go check it out. Drop a comment.
That's what's good. And for you, the gamers, stay up late all night. Make sure you pack yourself in with a lot of goodies and snacks, because what are you waiting for? The world needs more video games. So we will see you next week live on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we'll see you.